Earlier this week, I did a video on how the Chicago Bulls can fix their situation. This video is very similar, but this time with the Brooklyn Nets. The Chicago Bulls had to fix their situation a little bit more. The Brooklyn Nets are more so like, okay, how do we complete this teardown process? And that's what we're going to discuss in this video today. So hey, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I respond to every single comment on my YouTube channel, and I intend to keep on doing so. All right, let's get into it. You guys know where that brings us. It brings us back to the spreadsheets. This is my roster revival spreadsheet. I don't know. I keep trying to come up with names for these things, and I don't even think that there's a point at the end of the day. What you need to know is I construct these spreadsheets in order to kind of help myself narrate through these videos, give some visuals as to what we're actually talking about. But the goal here today is to talk about the Brooklyn Nets. I've got a bunch of details about the Brooklyn Nets here in terms of like draft picks, depth chart, roster, salary, and everything. And we're going to be making a bunch of moves and trades and stuff like this for how I think the Brooklyn Nets could play things out the rest of this year. Because look, the Nets made an announcement last week around the same time of the Bulls, basically saying like, look, you can trade for anybody on our team. Anybody's available right now because we all know the Nets are progressing towards a complete teardown. We know that they started tanking when they ended up offloading Bridges in the offseason, sending him over to the Knicks. They got a bunch of draft picks for them. Most importantly, they got their own first-round pick back for this upcoming draft, which is huge, right? And the Brooklyn Nets aren't in like the worst place in terms of standings right now when you actually go and take a look at them. The Nets are actually a play-in team right now, which is higher than we would have expected them to be. At least I think that's how the general NBA fan base looked at it. I looked at this roster and I was like, there's a lot of very competent NBA players on here. I don't think they're going to be like that bad. I don't think they're going to be good. But so this is kind of where I anticipated them being as of right now. But look, they're going to tear this roster down. They want to get more capital and everything because you look at this team, there's not really anybody on this roster that needs to be part of the future, right? There's nobody here that you look at and you go, yep, nope, this is the future right here. And Brooklyn Nets fans already steaming because Cam Thomas is on the screen. Just calm down, we'll talk about it. Okay, but anyway, so the Brooklyn Nets overachieving right now. They want to start selling. They probably want to start tanking a little bit because they have this pick. They've got a Bucks pick, they got a Knicks pick, and another complicated first-round pick. This is a loaded draft class. This next draft is where things start for them. That's where the rebuild actually starts, but they have to finish tearing things down before they can do that, right? They've got some valuable players on this team that they can sell off to teams to go get more long-term oriented assets, and so that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to be looking for young players, maybe some more draft assets, which kind of a complicated thing, honestly, because I couldn't even fit all the draft picks that they have over the next couple years on this list because they just have so many. All these green ones are first round picks, so maybe they're a little light in 2026, right? But then immediately they hit the ground running again, 2027, 28, and 29. I didn't even get to the 2030 list because they have some picks there as well. So I don't know. This team doesn't necessarily need more draft capital per se, maybe just some young guys to have around to see if they're going to become anything, right? And they've experimented with that a little bit with certain guys on the team, but what I want to do first is I want to just go through the roster here. So this is the current roster, and we're going to list some guys here. We'll put a star by their name if we plan on trading them at all in this video, and we'll just simulate out how everything will go, but we're going to go through each player and just kind of talk about the situation that they find themselves in with the Brooklyn Nets currently and what I think we should do with them. Starting things off, Ben Simmons. I'm annoyed with this one. I am a big Ben Simmons supporter in the sense of like I just don't like how much hate he gets like as a person. I don't know, it kind of bothers me. The basketball player in him at this point is hard to watch. It really is. There's moments where like he does some pretty cool things. There's moments where it just looks like he's really just out there kind of playing pickup basketball, making great passes, and that's about it. Like he'll get some rebounds, that's cool. Doesn't look like he has any interest in really like playing the game that hard. I don't know. It's a little bit frustrating to me, but man, was he something special back in the day, man. He was good at it. He was just good at everything but shooting. He was good at everything but shooting, and people just wanted to hate on him and the injuries and everything. But anyway, Brooklyn has no need to trade Ben Simmons, nobody wants him, right? Nobody wants Ben Simmons. His trade value is 0. This is the last year of his max contract, and then it's off the books, so you just ride it out with him, right? Right now, I have him as like a backup point guard because that's basically what he is. He's just coming into the game. He handles the rock well. He passes the ball well. He's going to play fine defense, and he's on the team for this season. I'll be curious to see, like, does Ben Simmons just get like a minimum contract next year? Because he's still like an NBA player. Like, he's still NBA fine. It's just like, I don't know. I'm bummed that we're never gonna get to see prime Ben Simmons again, it seems like. But anyway, Nick Claxton, then, their defensive-oriented center, they just gave him a big contract in the offseason, 4 years, about $100 million. I personally don't think we need to trade Nick Claxton in this video. I know there's going to be some people that are like, oh, centers are like so in demand right now. Like, we know the Grizzlies would really love to have him. The Pelicans, I'm sure, would love to have him. I don't think the Pelicans are making any sort of move anyway. I'm sure the Lakers would love to have him somehow. I personally think if you're going to build a team the right way, I think that there need to be certain players in place to kind of help accommodate these young guys that are going to come onto this team. And what do I mean by that? So looking at this team, right, we're going to be selling some pieces. And one thing I see a lot of young teams and like certain franchises mess up all the time is they bring in these like these high draft picks and everything, and they already have no support around them. So instantly they're the guy everybody keys in on. They have no like support around the roster. Like I can't be a 5-star guy coming into the NBA first overall pick, and I'm passing to these bums that can't do anything with the basketball, and I'm just kind of stuck to man for myself, right? It's just, I don't know. It makes things a lot more challenging. If you keep a guy like Nick Claxton on the team, who, look, he's not costing you that much money, solid player. He's had kind of a slow start to this year because of the injuries and everything. It seems like they've kind of now got him starting again, but it seems like they're taking it pretty slow, probably because they don't care about winning too much this season, right? And that's probably smart. But what are you going to get out of Nick Claxton? You're going to get a really versatile defensive center, right? A guy that can run, jump, and dunk with anybody, get some rebounds and stuff. That's a nice option, especially like, let's say if this team ends up taking a Dylan Harper or something like that, a guy that's going to be really methodical, playing pick and rolls and stuff like that. It'd be nice to have a guy like this early on in his career. Think Luka Doncic when he came in and they had DeAndre Jordan on Dallas. It was a big reason why Luka found a lot of success early, right? It's just having simple options that they can go to in the game. So I want to keep Nick Claxton on the team. Cameron Johnson. I kind of want to use the same logic with Cameron Johnson here. Cameron Johnson's had a good season, shooting the ball well as always, getting you about 18-ish points a game, playing fine defense. Like, he's never going to be like an elite slasher, but he puts the ball on the floor just fine. Like, I have no complaints about it. So there's part of me that says, like, if we don't need to trade Nick or Cam Johnson, I don't think we should. Because, like, look, if this team was draft pick deficient, I might feel stronger about that, but there is a point where you have too many draft picks. I actually think OKC is somewhat in that spot now, because eventually what's going to happen, like, imagine you're in a negotiation, right, with the Oklahoma City Thunder right now, and you look at that team and all the young talent that they already have, right? Eventually, they got to sign those guys to big-ass contracts. But anyway, you're that team, you're negotiating with the Thunder, and the Thunder are like, oh, well, we've got all these draft picks and everything. We don't just, like, need to trade them. And you go, okay, so what, you're just going to use these, like, 15 draft picks over the next, like, 4 years? You literally can't even, like, roster all those guys if you want to keep the other ones. So it's actually more of a negative asset to you. Like, it's going to be worth nothing if you don't give it to me. So there is a point where you have too many draft picks, so I don't want to do anything that I don't have to with this. By the way, we should take a look at this team's salary cap space before I continue talking about Cameron Johnson. I probably should have started with that earlier, but this team is over the cap. That's totally fine. That makes sense. They're actually pretty close to luxury tax here, which we don't want this team to be a luxury tax team. There's no point in paying for a team that's not going to be that good. So we're going to try to keep this team under the luxury tax. But look, with Cam Johnson on the team, who's a nice player and seems to take some pride in playing for this team or whatever, I don't mind having him on the roster as well. Like, let's say it's a Cooper Flagg or an Ace Bailey that gets on this team too. You already have another wing that you can swing the ball to that's going to be competent and, like, can go get you 18, 19 points at any given night. Like, that sounds like an okay thing to me. I don't feel the need to trade him necessarily. So I'm thinking we're going to hang on to Cameron Johnson unless we find something crazy. Bojan Bogdanovic hasn't played at all this season. 1 year left on the contract. I can't imagine anybody's trading for him with $20 million still on this season. It's going to be too hard to manage. If he comes back this year, which, like, I don't even know what's going on with Bojan at this point. I haven't checked, like, the injury update or anything. Ford is still yet to play this season. This was 3 weeks ago. Oh boy, is there anything? I saw him on the court shooting Wednesday. Blah, 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 blah. Isn't expected until next month. Okay, fair enough. He is still expected to return before the deadline. Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine anybody trading for him, and I don't feel a need to anyway, because he's gone at the end of the season anyway, which, look, if we were to eliminate all the guys that are on 1 year roster spots with these, or 1 year contracts with this team, you have a ton of cap space, right? So You're not drowning or anything. You're just fine. You hold on to Bojan for the end of the season. It's fine. Dorian Finney-Smith. This is an absolute trade piece right here. Dorian Finney-Smith has to be at a pretty peak value right about now. His defensive numbers are really, really good. His on-off numbers are really, really good. You look at him when he's on the court versus when he's not. The Brooklyn Nets, who are still a bad team all around at the end of the day, they shoot up from like, I think they're like a minus, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I know that he's like a plus 17 difference or something when he's on the court versus when he's not, and he's shooting the 3-ball really, really well this year. Teams need wings, especially if you're an East team. You got to get by the Celtics or like the Knicks or something who have really talented wings. This is a 3-and-D guy that you can throw in. These 3-and-D wings, so hard to find, right? You're probably going to get a first-round pick or something for him, or if not, some interesting young talent or something to pair along with it. So Dorian Finney-Smith, 100%, we're going to try to trade him in this video. He has a player option at the end of the year, too, which I'm inclined to think he would accept for the right team, but we'll see. Dennis Schroeder, funny enough, I talked about trading him quite a bit during the offseason, and I said a team like the Golden State Warriors should make a trade for a guy like this because he's actually very high impact. And I saw a lot of Warriors fans being like, you think we would want Dennis Schroeder? Like, why would we want that guy or whatever? I'm like, I don't think you guys watch enough basketball. I'm like, Dennis Schroeder's a dog, man. Like, a dog defensively, and he's even better offensively. He can create a shot from anywhere. There's nobody in this league that can stay in front of this dude. Like, he's super shifty, gets to the rim whenever he wants. He plays really hard every single night. Smart basketball player. Really, really valuable. Putting up like 18-ish points a game right now. He's pretty efficient overall. The defense is still looking good. He's actually, if you go over to like the estimated plus minus, I was looking this up a bit ahead of time. You look at Dennis Schroeder here, and overall, like him as an estimated plus minus defensive player is actually a positive, which is good. It puts him in the 72nd percentile. You'll see it right here on the graph. So like this is how good he is compared to like other defensive players on this list. I guess I can pull this one up specifically, but Dennis Schroeder, good basketball player at the end of the day. We like Dennis Schroeder for the amount of minutes that he plays and everything, and the amount of defense that he can contribute. Offensively, he can score. Somebody wants this guy, right? When there's only a year left, so we might as well get something for him. There's not a ton of there's not a huge point to keeping him around. Zaire Williams, a guy that they traded for, kind of like with the same idea that we're looking for in this video. They were like, hey, we'll give him a shot. This guy showed something as a rookie, hasn't shown anything much since, and he continues to be that way. It hasn't been too good for Zaire. By the way, this rotation that I threw together is kind of like what I imagine it to be. I know Ben Simmons starts sometimes. Cam Thomas is obviously out right now. Claxton's a recent starter again. This is just what I imagine drawing up if I was head coach. So I don't know, take it as you will. Noah Clowney's obviously played more than Sharp this season, but Sharp just came back to start the year. So hopefully he's going to be what we expect him to be, solid player. But Zaire, no point trying to trade him unless we're throwing him in as like salary matching or something like that. Cam Thomas. All right, Brooklyn Nets fans. All right. I know what you're going to say. We have had no homegrown talent like ever. And we've got a guy that scores 24 points per game. Guess what? You're still worse when he's on the court. Look, I like watching Cam Thomas play. He's got a role in the NBA. He's incredibly good at what he does, and that is putting the basketball in the hoop. But that is all he is good at. Like, I promise you he is. Why do you think the Nets are making it so clear that they want to trade this guy? It's not because, like, they don't like him as a person or something like this. It's like, look, for y'all, I've been in basketball for a while now. I see a lot of these types of players, these guys that are just absolute buckets that you always wonder, how aren't they in the NBA or something? It's because you have to be able to do so much more in the NBA than just putting the ball in the hoop to actually make it on a team and everything. Cam Thomas is the exception on the rule because he is so good at scoring. Now, you don't build a team around something like this. You just don't. It never works. He is a spark plug player at the end of the day. That is what he's going to be good for. Cam Thomas is going to be best coming off the bench for somebody and just being a spark plug scorer that goes and gets buckets while the like star players are out of the game, because he's good at that, right? So it keeps you afloat and stuff, like on a championship level contending team when that happens. Maybe hit some clutch shots for you in the playoffs and stuff. You don't want him with a huge role, because at the end of the day, a lot of times if you keep these guys on the court long enough, they are negative players, and that's what Cam Thomas is even statistically in the NBA right now. So it doesn't help you win. The team is better when he's off the court. So you keep him in small sample size and you move forward. And look, you're so far away from being good that there's no point in having him on the team. Now, you could argue that kind of like what I said before, it's nice to have guys on the team that can like take pressure off whatever young stud you think you have. And if that's your argument, I'll say, okay, fair enough. But are you willing to pay Cam Thomas $35 million to do that over the next 4 or 5 years? Or are you going to get sick of him in that amount of time? I think the Nets are like, I don't think that's worth it for us, so we're going to try to probably move him in this video. Deron Sharp, basically big, bulky backup center. Grab some rebounds for them. He's a young guy that I want to see play out this last year of like his contract, so it might be a guy that you re-sign at the end of the year. Cool. Noah Clowney. I know Nets fans were excited about Noah Clowney last year, and I kind of half-heartedly said like, yeah, good for you guys, right? They're like, oh, he played great with Nick Claxton. He can play the 4 or something for us. I was like, no, you don't want that. No, you don't want that. And like, he hasn't been very good this year. He has not been very good this year overall. He's incredibly inefficient. He's been a complete negative for the team so far this year. I don't know, like, it just doesn't seem like I don't know what to do with him. I'm not saying we're moving him in this. Like, he's so young that you want to at least explore the talent a little bit more, but nothing I'm like crazy about at the end of the day. If I have to throw him into a trade to make something happen, I will. Same with Dariq Whitehead. He just might never play basketball. So is what I know he's played a little bit this year, but I literally have no opinion of this guy because I've just never seen him play. So it just is what it is. Shake Milton starting to heat up a little bit again. I'm a big Shake Milton guy, and I know the injuries have slowed him down quite a bit in his career, but man, I like him a lot as a player. So I don't know if maybe a team gets interested or something. Like, I'm gonna put a star by him just because like the Nets don't need him. He's on a cheap contract. Teams are looking for cheap rotation players and stuff. So could be a way for us to pick up a little something. I don't know. Trendon Watford actually is like the 4th or 5th leading scorer on this team or something like that. He hasn't played in many games. I think it's only like 6 or 7 or something like that. I don't know. But he's supposed to be kind of like a stretch 4. Isn't really hitting like that right now, but he's been getting a little bit of burn. No point in moving him. Not really, and I don't really think there's anything all that special here anyway. No offense, it's just what it is. Keon Johnson, I kind of feel the same way about. Can be a little spark pluggy at times. Isn't good enough at anything for me to really warrant being that crazy about him. I also don't want to trade him because, again, he's young, so why not just continue to explore what you can have in him? So be it as it may, just let him chill for now. And then Jalen Wilson, a player that kind of came out of nowhere last year that we were like, oh, interesting. Who is this guy that they kind of just brought up and added to the roster? And like, he's got some size, he's hitting the 3-ball well, he's moving good without the basketball, moves his feet well defensively. And so I'm like, interesting. You guys might have found a 3-and-D wing. That's like gold in the NBA nowadays. So Jalen Wilson's been pretty solid for them. He's been a positive overall for like the lineup numbers and everything like that. He's shooting the ball fine from the field and everything. Like, I don't think he's some crazy next level talent or anything like that, but when you have a young player, he's not costing you much money like this, and you kind of found him yourself and grew him, keep a guy like this around, right? Maybe he becomes a long-term rotation player for you or something like that. So I want to keep Jalen Wilson. He's probably one of the more interesting players to keep on this team, so definitely keeping him around. But anyway, we've got our people to trade. Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas. Why did I put Deron Sharp here? Who did I mean to do it for? I think I might have just done that by accident or something. Shake Milton. So that's the group, and Shake Milton's even kind of And this list is probably what you expected if you've paid any attention to like the rumors or anything like that. I know there's Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson and Bojan trade rumors as well. I don't know. Those seem a little bit more unrealistic to me and unnecessary. So we're trying to keep this video realistic for the sake of, realism. That's important on this channel, at least in my opinion. So Let's start making some trades, y'all. Let's go over to Fanspo. Alrighty, y'all, we're back here on Fanspo. You guys know we love using Fanspo. It's a great way to simulate these trades and everything. So if we look back at our list, going over here, it's not like there's a particular order that we need to attack this in. Hell, we're not even sure Shake Milton is going to go. But when I look at this, I see like Dorian Finney-Smith, I see Dennis Schroeder, Cam Thomas. It's like, okay, these guys need to kind of go to different places. Cam Thomas needs to go somewhere where he can just be an absolute bucket getter, right, for the rest of the season. Like, what is a team that could absolutely use a bucket getter for the rest of the season? Let's take a look around. We did a whole video on this, and I honestly don't even remember what we kind of settled on. Like, there's a world where it's kind of the Milwaukee Bucks, right? The Sixers, maybe the Wizards. You let them go get some buckets out there. Pelicans, no. Jazz, no. I'm I'm not exactly sure where I want to send a name like Cam Thomas. So when thinking about teams that could use a spark plug, like off the bench or something like that, there's also a team that needs a cheap option at that, because Cam Thomas really isn't that expensive. I mean, we look at Cam Thomas's contract, $4 million, 1 season. Who might be kind of interested in something like that? Well, I'm kind of thinking the Denver Nuggets would pick up the call, because look, Nuggets having a fine season at the end of the day. Jokic, best player in basketball. Murray's been fine. Porter Jr.'s actually been pretty good. Aaron Gordon's been hurt. They've been struggling to find a lot of other production outside of that. I should say Brown's been pretty solid. Holmes obviously got hurt. I think Strother's pretty solid. Peyton Watson is not reliable offensively. Like, there's not a lot of guys creating their own stuff out here. A lot of them rely on Jokic to go do something. They've got a guy in the name of Russell Westbrook who's going to try, and he's having a pretty solid season for his standards, all said and done. But I think a Cam Thomas, he could probably fit in here, come off the bench or something like that, get some buckets. Look, Jokic isn't going to let him do anything stupid, right? Because Jokic is going to have a ball a lot of the time. So if Jokic is just handling the rock, Cam Thomas is just running around trying to get the basketball, I think Jokic is going to be pretty happy with that, actually, and just use him in sparing minutes. I think there's something here. Trade him over to the Nuggets. We don't have to do much to make it work after that. So this is a first apron team, so we have to get pretty close with salary. Dario Saric, not a guy that's being used very much right now, right? You could send him over to the Nets, save them a little bit of money. Maybe we just keep it simple. Then we have to take a look at picks, though. What can they actually do? They can trade us a 2031 first-round pick. Who knows what the Nuggets look like by 2031. That might be a pick far enough out to where we feel okay doing something like this. Is there like a young player that they could maybe like throw in as well that we could also absorb onto the roster somehow? I'm trying to think if there's anybody we want. Like, is there any way we convince them to give us like a Peyton Watson? I don't think so, because they're so weak at the wing position. Do we really want anyone else? I'm not a big Hunter Tyson guy. I know Nuggets fans would love for them to take on Jalen Pickett, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Something like this probably seems very underwhelming for like Nuggets or for Nets fans right now. And that's what I'm trying to appeal to a little bit. But something like this, you just get a future first round pick out of it. Yes, your team's getting a little bit more expensive, and I'm not trying to trip about it, but I don't know. It's not a perfect trade, so I don't want to completely sign off on that just yet. Is there any other team, like, we throw the Suns on here. They really don't need another score, but they could use like cheap options to kind of help them get better. Obviously, the Lakers are a team that could be interesting. I personally think they're okay at the guard spot right now. So where else could we throw Cam Thomas and kind of just like let him be free? I don't think the Magic are exactly the right move in this case, although I will revisit the Magic, I think, later. So just looking around, man, where else do we send him? Is he a cheap option for Milwaukee to find another shot creator? Quite possibly so. Quite possibly so. What could we do for them here? So let's just say, in this case, because they have some young players that they could kind of throw at the Nets as well. I don't want to take on too much salary, but I'm okay with taking on young players or something like that. So let's just say again, Cam Thomas, we're sending him over to the Bucks. He gets to play in some sparing minutes off the bench, be a little bench scorer. They could use somebody like that, right? We could just do the Pat Connaughton swap. I don't think we need to take on that much money right here, right now. You send back Beauchamp. I think that's probably the first thing you do. And then what? Is there somebody else that we can throw into this? Is there any way we convince them to give us like Tyler Smith as well as like an interesting young player? They've got him on a real team-friendly deal right now, and they might see some interesting potential in him. But we say, look, you get 23-year-old Cam Thomas, who can already score 24 points per game in the NBA. You got to give me Tyler Smith. Give me Tyler Smith. There we go. That's a young guy that I can mess around with a little bit for a couple years. And then you already gave us Tyler Smith. We don't need to take one of your like first round picks from you. At least I don't personally believe that you need to, unless it's the 2031. It's a 1-year deal, so I don't necessarily think so. I think you send over like this pick or something like that. You try this out. Financial. Ooh, really? Oh, this doesn't work money-wise? Ooh, okay, I got to get somebody more expensive than Beauchamp or something, apparently. Okay, fair enough. So Beauchamp, $2.7 million. Do we have to do a Pat Connaughton trade? I don't need Beauchamp. I don't think he's that great anyway. So we send Pat Connaughton over. We're going to have to find a way to relieve ourselves of some salary some other way then later in the video. Okay, so we can do something like this then. That's fine. That trade works. Fine. We'll sign off on that then. I'm cool with this. So we're adding Tyler Smith to the rotation here. Does Pat Connaughton become an instant starter or is it Shake? I'm just going to presume that it's Shake Milton for this time at this very moment. Then we'll throw Pat Connaughton here. So we have one extra roster spot. We might be like shifting Pat Connaughton somewhere else later in this video, just because like, look, this trade is going to maintain itself, and now we're going to add a new team to try to move somebody else. So we'll see if Pat Connaughton stays where he's at, or if he's also going to be on the move somehow in this in a 3-teamer. But anyway, let's find a home for, I'm going to say, let's do Dorian Finney-Smith next. I'd like to find a home for Dorian Finney-Smith. Who could use 3-and-D wing? That's the question, right? I've got a dirty idea. I've got a very dirty idea. Alrighty, this is when you got to clear your internet history for, kids, afterwards. I really want to think of more ideas for how to get Julius Randle off this team. I think the Timberwolves are going to be desperate, and I think they're going to be looking for any possible way to do so. Julius Randle, though, where does he go? I don't want him in Brooklyn. I would prefer not to do that. So I was thinking of teams last night that he could go to, and so I'm going to add another team onto this. I'm going to add the Charlotte Hornets. They are a team that I feel like could use a wing like this. Yes, I know they have Miles Bridges right now. Miles Bridges, like let's just take a look at Miles Bridges' numbers right now. Hasn't been too efficient overall as a basketball player this season. These are last year's stats. I really wish they would fix these. Let me just pull up Miles Bridges here so we can actually take a look at like what he's contributing this year. We are getting 16 points, so pretty heavy drop off. I know Brandon Miller's kind of more of the scorer now, but 34 from 3, almost 35, so just a below league average, pretty poor from the field. I don't know, Miles Bridges isn't doing a ton for this team right now. So I think that we could pull off like a Julius Randle thing with them or something. I feel like we could route Julius Randle over to the Hornets. They can do something with him. They're trying to win more basketball games right now. They're making that very evident. And now Grant is hurt. Grant can move somewhere else because they don't need Grant at that point then, right? And they'd rather give minutes to Tidjane Salaam. That's a hard one to say. So Grant Williams, we'll take him on. Send him over here to the Nets. That's not a bad player just to have on your team, like I said, when your young guys join or something like that. I'm cool with this. I'm cool with this. Now, Timberwolves have to take some other things on. What exactly are we doing to help them out? I'm cool with sending them over like Dorian Finney-Smith or something like that. So let's send Dorian Finney-Smith over there. They get a 3-and-D wing. That's an improvement and a player that they can have play as the forward spot or something like that. They might feel better about that for trying to win in the short term or something like that. Now, do we also shift like a Pat Connaughton over there to actually go and make the money work? So we send Pat Connaughton over there. They don't necessarily need him is the thing though. So is there a better way that we could go about doing this? Let me think about this for a second. Maybe I'll move Pat Connaughton back over to the Nets for a second. We've taken on 3 players. We've moved 2 on. I'd like to move one other player off this roster somehow. Is there a way that we send like Shake Milton like back to the Timberwolves or something like that? Or do we move somebody else over from the Hornets in this one? Well, the Hornets have only moved Grant Williams right now, so they just have to move some other people in this in some way or fashion, like a Cody Martin or like a Micic or something like that. I don't think they need to move like a Trey Mann or anything. So let me just think about this. Is this a world where like Josh Green's actually been pretty good for them overall this season? It was really slow at the beginning, but it's kind of picked up. So I feel like Martin has to be moved over to the Timberwolves or something here. Let's just see where we're at after this trade. So yep, they need to cut another $4-ish million in this move. The Bucks can take on another $4-ish million. Okay. That's interesting. And they can take on another player. So can we find $4 million somewhere and move them? Mark Williams. Oh, no. I think he just came back, didn't he? I think so. I'm not trading Trey Mann. They can move Micic, but that's going to be too expensive. So what has to happen with Micic then? Can we move Micic over to us, but instead, like Grant Williams? No, he can't go back over though. How are we going to do this? I got to think this through. All right, I think I've come up with something kind of interesting here. So take a look at this. So the Nets now, we're taking on Grant Williams, a little bit more expensive. I'm not thrilled about that. We're going to have to really shed some money in this last deal somehow. So Grant Williams, he comes in, Pat Connaughton comes in, Misic comes in, we get Tyler Smith. There's going to be more draft capital in this. Just hold on for a second. Bucks take on Cam Thomas, who they're interested in. They can have Zaire as well. We don't need him. I'd rather play Jalen Wilson anyway. The Timberwolves get Dorian Finney-Smith, Cody Martin. We're going to have to throw some sort of draft capital into that as well because they're losing out on a player like Julius Randle. Hornets get Julius Randle. Cool. They probably feel pretty solid about that. If I was to look at this, like, we definitely need to be compensated draft-wise a little bit. Probably the Hornets have to do, the Hornets have to do something. They've traded Cody Martin, Misic, and Grant Williams, so they have to throw some picks in somewhere. That are like, we have to take at least one on. Give us this like Miami unprotected first that we're probably never going to see at the end of the day. And I know we didn't want to take on too many picks. That's why I say we're probably never going to see it, or it's going to turn into some second round picks or something like that. And then they can throw like a second round pick over to like the Timberwolves, something like that. Cool. I don't know. You guys can mess around with the picks or whatever. Tell me what makes sense with this, but I can stomach this. I can stomach this for now. Let's go mess with the numbers a little bit and see where we're at after this. All right, so we've added Grant Williams and Misic over here. So Grant Williams is going to be out for the year. That's totally fine, right? That's just what it's going to be. Let's put Misic over here. Grant Williams needs to go somewhere. Dorian Finney-Smith is no longer on the roster. Zaire is no longer on it. Let's move Jalen Wilson into the starting lineup because I'm curious to see him play. Anyway, okay, what does that kind of leave us with? Yeah, Grant Williams, we're not quite sure what to do with him, so let's just move, like, for the sake of it, Tyler Smith over here or something like that, and Grant can go at the back because he's injured right now. We did go over the luxury tax, so we have to find a way to shave some money off with this Dennis Schroeder trade now, so I don't need this, by the way, and these are still good. So Dennis Schroeder, he's the last one to trade. What are we doing with him? I've got an idea almost instantly for him. I talked about in the video on whatever it was for you guys, like Tuesday or something like that, that I'm like, the Orlando Magic are in kind of a different position than what they were in earlier this year because they've had so much success. They still need shot creating, and I think they know that, but they're going to be a lot more picky about trades because of that fact, right? Because they're like, well, look, we don't even have Banchero and we're winning games right now, so we don't have to take anything. But there's a pretty simple trade that can happen here that I think benefits both sides. So Dennis Schroeder, we can move him over to the Magic, right? That's going to give him a shot creator, a true point guard. Awesome. They don't need Cole Anthony anymore. This is a cool player for the Nets to take on for the sole fact of like, this guy can go get buckets when he needs to, right? You move him over to the Nets, he gets to be starting point guard right away. He can go get buckets for the rest of this season, you know, play out his contract and everything. And like, we have a quality basketball player then on this team. Now, this doesn't help us relieve a ton of cap necessarily. So we're probably going to have to find another trade like somewhere else to try to relieve some cap. And by the way, like the Magic have to give something else up in this, probably like some second round picks or something like that, maybe a first, maybe you got to give something like this, or maybe like another young player or something, I don't know, but the base is basically this, and like this should just work fine. So the Magic take on Dennis Schroeder, it's just an addition, right? It just makes their team better, and they don't really have to risk anything else. He's a starter quality player that you add to the team, and it shaves a little bit of money off this one. So we can trade, or we can change Dennis Schroeder to Cole Anthony, young player that you can mess around with, see what you can go do with him. Let's add Cole Anthony to this. Hopefully I have a picture for Cole Anthony, and I do. Wonderful. Who else can we trade to help relieve some of this? Or is this just a situation then where Bojan gets bought out? That's probably what should happen, honestly, because I don't imagine a trade where this is actually going to take place. So let's just say we buy Bojan out and we just tell him, hey, you're not going to get your full 19, but what we can give you is, how much do we need? We need to clear, I don't know, let's just say we give him like 13 million or something like that. That's not where I want to put this. I want to put this here, 13, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We put that there. Okay, do we still have one extra roster spot as well right now by just cutting Bojan? Okay, you can do something like this. Hell, you can give Bojan like 15 million if you really want to. like, and you're still not over the luxury tax. So Bojan can get 15 million. You buy him out, you just don't need him on the roster. You're probably not going to be able to trade him anyway. And you're probably fine with this, right? You're probably okay. You can move these guys up in the rotation then a little bit. And then what have we done by the end of this, right? So we've kind of torn down the roster a little bit, but we did keep some of it intact. And now you guys can mess with these rotations or whatever, and maybe you see some other lineups or whatever. I don't care. That's up to you guys at the end of the day. But we've maintained some solid players on this roster for whoever we take with these draft picks, right? Like maybe it's Cooper Flagg coming in. Cooper Flagg then is coming in with solid starting center, another solid contributing player right here. He's got a point guard that can score and take some shots if he needs to. Jalen Wilson is a competent NBA player at this point, right? And you've got a couple other expensive players on the team, but you're also losing a couple, right? Like Ben Simmons is going to come off the books still. Hopefully you re-sign Sharp, then you'll have just a nice center rotation all the way around at the end of the day. Watford comes off the books. We'll see what happens with like Connaughton and everything. Does he have a player option? Is that what Pat Connaughton has? I guess I can take a quick look just because I'm curious. Let's take a look at Pat Connaughton's contract here. Yeah, there's a player opt-out, and so he's not opting out of that. It's fine. You have him on the roster, and maybe you buy another bad contract next year with it if you really need to. But I'm kind of okay with this. Shake Milton's here if you needed to. You could throw him into a deal and spice things up a little bit, but I don't feel the need to move him. So you run with this team the rest of the year. They're going to lose games, right? This roster is not very good. You just traded some of their best players. We did acquire a little bit more draft capital. I didn't want to go too crazy with it, but you did acquire some at the end of the day. You even got like an interesting young player that you can kind of mess around with and see if he's going to be anything for you. So at the end of the day, you move some people, you got a couple more assets, you're going to lose some games, and you're going to feel a lot better when you go and you get like a Cooper Flagg or something like that at the end of the season. So I feel pretty good about this all said and done. You've got a roster that can work for you. You got a soft landing spot for whoever joins the team next year. This is probably what the Brooklyn Nets should do in some way or fashion, right? Because I don't think they're going to get a huge amount of draft picks for these guys or anything, but I don't know. I'll be interested to see at the end of the day. But hey, leave me your comments down below. That's the best part of this stuff, is you guys can contribute to the conversation. So go leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think makes sense. And hey, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.